Hi everyone, and welcome to Carmel Unfiltered. I'm Samantha Fulling. Take a seat, grab some coffee, and come be unfiltered with me on Carmel Unfiltered, my platform, my perspective. So, you've read the title, and I think we all know what we're talking about here. This episode, before I tell you why I don't like this, we're going to walk through exactly what New York State has passed. We're going to clarify that this is a state law, Education Law Section 2803, not something Carmel Central School District invented. And we're going to do facts first, analysis second, and opinion last. So before we begin, I just want to clarify that I am not an attorney or a legal professional, and this episode is based solely on public available laws, district policies, and independent research. It is intended for informational purposes only and should not be considered legal advice. If you believe your situation requires legal guidance, please consult a qualified professional. So let's start with what the cell phone ban law actually is. And that is Education Law Section 2803. Every public school district, charter school, and BOCES in New York State must adopt a written policy prohibiting students' use of internet-enabled devices during the entire school day on school grounds. This applies bell to bell, during instructional time, during homeroom, during lunch, recess, study halls, and passing time, so in the hallway. This is not a during class only. It is a full day restriction. What counts as an internet-enabled device? That includes smartphones, tablets, smartwatches, any device capable of connecting to the internet or social media. It does not include non-internet capable phones and school-issued devices used for instruction. So here's a good example. My husband and I, just this past week, decided to get our daughter one of those kid smartwatches. So all it can do is call, text, and play games. And she can only call and text people that we, from our phones, put into her watch. So family. But she does not have access to logging onto Facebook, to Instagram, not that she has any of these things, or Googling anything. We really got it for the GPS thing. You know, we go out as a family a lot. God forbid she gets away from us, which I would never let happen, but does happen. We can track her in real time. So what is the timeline for this proposed law? So Governor Hochul first proposed the cell phone ban law in the fiscal 2026 executive budget. It was enacted as part of the fiscal year 2026 state budget. It is codified in education law as Section 2803. District policies were to be adopted and posted by August 1st, 2025, and it takes effect for the 2025-2026 school year. Annual enforcement reporting begins this September 1st, 2026. So whose idea was it? It was publicly proposed and championed by Governor Kathy Hochul. It was framed as part of her distraction-free schools initiative, and it was justified through classroom distraction concerns, student mental health and social media exposure, cyberbullying, school safety consultations, and findings from statewide listening tours. What was the role of NYSUT, or the New York State Unified Teachers? 1. Advocacy before passage. NYSUT publicly supported the distraction-free schools proposition and hosted several events such as the Disconnected Conference. The New York State Unified Teachers Disconnected Conference was a statewide gathering of educators, parents, mental health professionals, law enforcement, and policymakers focusing on the impact of cell phones and social media on student learning and mental health, and it directly preceded NYSUT's formal push for a bell-to-bell device ban. Its framed issue around learning conditions, student engagement, mental health, and school climate. NYSUT adopted a formal resolution supporting a statewide bell-to-bell restriction, allowing districts flexibility in implementation. Internal polling cited strong member support. NYSUT leadership appeared alongside the governor during announcements, and union statements indicate active advocacy during the budget process. NYSUT then provided implementation guidance and continues to publicly support the rollout. So I just want to state that there is no official NYSUT statement saying that the purpose of the ban was to stop students from recording teachers. The union messaging very much focuses on distraction, engagement, mental health, and school environment. Individual teachers may have concerns about being recorded, and New York is a one-party consent state, but preventing recordings was not formally stated in the union's motivation. I just want to give a quick hot take on this. While I genuinely believe that the New York State United Teachers and some educators in the state had ulterior motives behind this law, I will be honest that there is no hard evidence to back this up. So this is my opinion only. Don't come for me. For anyone who supported this ban specifically because they don't want students recording teachers, what exactly are you trying to hide? And before anybody rushes in with people shouldn't be recorded in the workplace, let's just be real for a second. People are recorded in their workplace, even in our schools, all the time. Cameras exist everywhere, and teachers don't just work with adults. They work with one of the most vulnerable populations on this planet, and that is children. So no, I don't agree that anyone automatically deserves a camera-free classroom when they're responsible for kids. If you're not doing wrong things, you have nothing to worry about. So what districts must include in their policies? District policies must include parent and guardian contact method during the school day, on-site storage options for devices, stakeholder consultation, employees, parents, and students. We did have a few town halls about this, public posting on district website, and translation access upon request. Exceptions to these policies. So exceptions are educational purposes, which have to be staff authorized, healthcare management. So if you're diabetic and you use your cell phone to track your blood sugar, that would be an exception. In case of emergencies, translation services. So is it ESL or ENL? I'm very sorry for even asking that question. I should know this. But if a student speaks a different language and is using their device to help with translation, they would be allowed to have that. Student caregivers, which is by a case-by-case basis, and when required by law. So if your 504 or IEP requires you to have your device on you for whatever reason, some of the previous exceptions cover that, you are allowed to have it. What are student consequences? So this is what trips people up, and I still do mental gymnastics myself thinking about this. Students cannot be suspended solely for violating this policy. So this is the clearest way I've been able to think of this. I'm a student. I'm walking down the hallway with my cell phone. A staff member tells me to put it away. I say, okay, and I put it away. I cannot be suspended just for having my phone out, even though I'm clearly violating this policy. I'm a student. I'm walking down the hallway with my cell phone. A staff member sees me, tells me to put it away, and I say no. Now I am suspended for being insubordinate. That's what that means. You can't be suspended just because your phone is out or consequenced, in, to use that as a verb, in any way. You can't be given ISS, OSS, detention, anything like that, simply for violating this policy. But if you refuse, the refusal is insubordination, and that's what will have consequences. So local discipline does vary by district, and districts must support annually enforcement data, demographics, disparities, and mitigation plans. Consequences for districts. So like I said, they must adopt the policy beginning or by August 1st and must start reporting annually beginning September 1st of 2026. Although there are no explicit fines or funding penalty written into Section 2803, compliance is still mandatory under education law. State funding and flexibility. There is a $13.5 million statewide for storage solutions. So districts can choose a storage method, enforcement procedures, and operational details. So let's talk about how students have been working around this. We're at the end of February when I'm recording this. So this law and policy has been implemented for about 6 months now. They don't all listen to this, and they have figured out ways around it. So let's talk about the creativity of Gen Z and Gen Alpha. I think we're only on Gen Alpha now. I think Gen Z is out of high school and into college and adulthood. Congratulations. So what they are doing is decoy phones. They are bringing in a smartphone that is no longer active, and they're putting that into their pouches, their bags, whatever. They have bought magnets online. I know kids that have done this. Not my kid. At least I don't think so. He might have. But they are buying magnets online that they can open their pouches throughout their day. They're sharing their magnets with other kids. They are wearing smartwatches, even though that is part of the device ban, instead of having their cell phones out. So their cell phones go in the pouch on silence, stay on, but they're still able to access whatever they want from their Apple or Android watch. They are hiding devices in their backpacks and then bringing it into bathrooms or other, secret locations and being nonchalant about it. And there is honestly coordinated student workarounds. I heard a story of a group of kids in one of the cafeterias. I'm not going to mention which school. And they're all crowded around each other, and it's one or two take their phone out. The others keep an eye out for administration or monitors. So kudos to you kids. So the key takeaway and the purpose of saying that is phones don't actually disappear. They just become contraband. Students adapt very quickly. These are not stupid kids. They're very intelligent, and they figure shit out. And enforcement then becomes inconsistent, and instructional time shifts towards just enforcing the policy rather than just teaching the kids. So does this actually solve the problem? Well, what it can do is reduce visible classroom phone usage. It can limit casual scrolling, and it can increase face-to-face interaction in some settings. But this is what it doesn't solve. The core idea: social media addiction. These kids are still going on TikTok during the school day. Let's be so for real here. Cyberbullying, it's still going to happen. It's probably still happening during school hours, but it's definitely going to happen before and after school hours. Mental health, these kids are still addicted. They're still struggling, and it's all still tied to online culture. We haven't fixed the problem. And it does not solve digital literacy or self-regulation. Let's help figure out ways to teach these kids how to want to stay off their phones during classroom time and during the lunchroom, and have more face-to-face interaction. Taking it away, I don't know if anyone else knows what oppositional defiance disorder means, but whether they're diagnosed with it or not, guess what? That's what teenagers are. Oppositionally defiant. No, you can't have your cell phone. Guess what? Motherfucker, now I want my cell phone even more. And I understand these kids because somewhere deep in my brain, I am perpetually 16 years old. Sorry for the rant. And it does not solve student disengagement or equity gaps. And what that means is, I think part of the thought process behind that is not every kid has access to a cell phone for whatever reason. And it's to help bridge the gap of kids who feel left out because they don't have something to scroll on in the lunchroom. But the bottom line is, the ban only treats the symptoms of these issues. It does not treat the root causes. Behavior changes into avoidance tactics only. So it really only solves visibility and not the behaviors themselves. And who even ends up enforcing this? It's not the state. Hochul's not walking through our hallways going, give me your cell phone, give me your cell phone, give me your cell phone. She's not. Legislators aren't doing that. The teachers are doing it. And it's interrupting class time to do it. Administrators are doing it, which means it's interrupting their days. Support staff are doing it. Hall monitors are already monitoring bathroom usage in our high school and our middle school. Now they also have to be device management. They don't get paid enough for that. The real world impact of this ban is insane. It just means more lost instructional time. Staff, are you not sick of this? Like, do some of you do not get paid peanuts and now you're enforcing cell phones? It's also inconsistent enforcement. Some staff really just don't give a shit and they will look the other way. Others take it far too seriously. And kids know that. And at the end of the day, it's all it's going to do is cause staff and students to really just bump heads more often. And I don't see what good that's doing. And districts are only absorbing the conflict that the state created. This wasn't their idea. This was New York State. So what happens now with trust, autonomy, and safety? So students learn they're not trusted. Parents lose immediate and direct access. And I know some of you out there are going to go, you don't need access to your children every day. And you know what? For parents that have never needed direct access to their student throughout the day, I envy you. I really do. I would invite you to come walk in my shoes for a day and tell me you don't need direct access. And it also leads to secrecy, lying, and workaround behavior as stated above. Students lose agency over their personal property, and there is zero opportunity to practice self-regulation, and compliance replaces responsibility. The state favors centralized control in all of this, and many families prefer individual access. Safety becomes philosophical and not universally agreed upon. These are all serious safety issues. So, what did Carmel Central School District do? Now, this policy was talked about quite a few times in committee meetings, and another shout out to Jason Paraskiva. Dug his heels in, was so against it, but at the end of the day, the policy was going to happen. So Carmel Central School District adopted policy 5695. It is bell-to-bell restriction. It covers homeroom, lunch, recess, and passing time. So just a quick note for anyone still wondering, the bus before and after does not count. Kids are allowed to have their devices on the AM school bus and the PM school bus. It provides parent contact methods. It provides storage, which are the pouches. By the way, if you have not heard, if a kid gets caught with their phone, they call it getting pouched or getting yondered. Adorable. And the district is not responsible for lost or damaged or stolen devices. I have a serious issue with this. And again, I know it's not the district. They did not come up with this, but if you're implementing a policy about my device, because it's not my kid's device, it's my device. They did not pay for it. I did. If you're coming up with a policy about what you can do with my personal device, and then you're telling me that if something happens when it's in your stupid pouch or you force my kid to put it in his locker, that it's not your issue, I have an issue with that. I've stated my opinions through all of this. We're going to go on to specifically my opinions and kind of get away from facts. But before we get there, let's talk about one thing. And I do have to acknowledge this. I don't necessarily know if I believe all of it. I think it's just pie in the sky, but I'll take his word for it. So I have had a few conversations with HIS principal Brian Piazza since the rollout of this new policy. And he has given pretty positive feedback on how Carmel students have handled this so far. He did acknowledge that this is still very early and that not enough time had passed for long-term data, but he was truly impressed with how his high school students were handling the ban and that they were generally overall pretty responsible. Before I get into the rest of my opinions, I do want to just disclaim that they are my personal opinions and these are not statements of fact or prediction. So why I personally dislike this ban. As a parent of a student who is needed to use their cell phone as a means of protection for a staff member in our buildings that violated his rights as a student, I don't agree with this ban. I absolutely believe that there is an underlying reason for this statewide ban. That is because teachers and unions don't want to be recorded. And I'm sorry, but I'm not sorry. Y'all deserve to be recorded for the shitty stuff that you do. It's not all of you, but it's enough of you. Even if it's one of you, it's enough of you. You deserve to be recorded and called out for the shitty things you do in classrooms. I also think that it does force kids to lose autonomy and learn how to regulate themselves. Listen, some real world jobs, you cannot have your phone. Corrections officers cannot have their phones on them. Doctors and nurses, while it may be in their pocket sometimes, they're not able to just pull them out willy-nilly whenever they want. I'm sure there's many other career choices. But you know who still do pull their cell phones out? The fucking teachers in these buildings. I have pictures on my phone that were sent to me by students, not just my student, other students of staff on their phones during instructional time. And no, I'm not going to call them out because truthfully, I don't care. I don't care. Your phone buzzes, you take it out. Now, we all have to practice a little self-control. We're adults. These are kids. Taking it away is just causing a further issue. It's causing trust to be eroded, and it's not allowing them to build their skills and their self-control. And it does not prepare them for the real world. Every job I've ever worked, other than when I was a practicing massage therapist, my phone has been next to me. My phone is, I'm working right now doing this. My phone is next to me. I've checked my phone probably 5 times already. I'm easily distracted. I get it. It's something I have to work on. This is not doing it. It's just not. And they're finding ways around it. So let's do one final recap. Thank you for listening to my rants. I hope you enjoyed it. I do enjoy getting a little sassier in these episodes. Some of these I'm very serious, but shit like this just irks me to no end. So final recap. This is a state law. It was not optional for school districts. It is a bell-to-bell restriction. Again, it does not prevent students from using their devices on the AM or PM bus. It only includes internet-enabled devices. IEP and 504 protections remain. There can be no suspension or other consequences solely for violating this policy. This was proposed by Governor Hochul, and it was supported and advocated by NYSUT. And there is no formal evidence recordings drove union support, although I disagree. Students are already finding workarounds, have been from the summer before this even dropped. And Carmel compliant early feedback has been positive, but long-term impact is still unknown. So before we end, just one more disclaimer that this is my podcast and my personal platform. This is not affiliated with, sponsored by, or endorsed by Carmel Central School District or any employee or volunteer of Carmel Central School District. Any views on this channel will be of mine or my guests. But that is today's conversation. These aren't always easy topics, but they do matter. If this episode gave you something to think about, share it and help keep our community informed. You can find all episodes, links, and ways to connect at linktree/Carmel Unfiltered. And if you or someone you know has a topic that deserves attention or wants to share their experience, you can message me or email me at carmelunfiltered@gmail.com. I'm Samantha Fulling. This is Carmel Unfiltered, my platform, my perspective. Until next time.